Will Stevens, Willco Properties. Welcome to VDM offices.
Nice to be back. It's looking very good. It's looking very good in here. Very happy to be back. Happy to be chatting and going through market updates and whatnot. It's. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Your year thus far, 2025, how would you describe the year for Willco Properties?
Look, I think it's been a very important year. Lots of growth. As you know, we've opened the new offices into property management and rentals and all that sort of side, which is something that, is new to me as well. I've only been a career salesman in terms of property sales. Rentals haven't always been my forte, but we've got a great team that's been built. Our rental manager, Joe, is very experienced. And in terms of growth for the company, it's just the next best thing for us is to go into that offering the both sides of sales and rentals as well, because, often clients buy for investment and we were losing that income stream. So it's great that we've managed to build that side of the business up so that we can offer our clients a full portfolio.
So that's what I was going to get to, a full service portfolio in terms of property.
Correct. Yeah, that's what we're after. Obviously with the bonds and everything as well, we provide that service through Phoenix. And the rental side we were losing. So it's important that we got that sorted.
Your areas as Willco Properties that you currently focus on and sell in and rent in?
Yeah, so obviously my background was based in Midrand, and that's where I started out at a previous company. But I'm lucky with the team that I've got. We basically do all the way from Midrand all the way to Bryanston, Morningside. And this year we've really expanded. I personally have moved to Bryanston, so that's my main focus as sort of a principal agent is, picking up houses, offering the service that we do in Bryanston, which is obviously a new area for me. But the existing guys that I've worked with for many years are doing very well from Midrand all the way down, Lone Hill, Chartwell, Broadacres, Craighaven. It's actually quite a good spread. You find a lot of people moving from one area to another. Yes. At least we can provide the same, you're dealing with the same company throughout. It's not as if you're going to have great service from Willco and you go through another agent and you're going to miss out. It also allows for savings for buyers and sellers alike.
And the market currently, Will, that you see the biggest movement in terms of, is it the 1 million, 2 million, and up to what bracket are you guys finding your soft spot in terms of the market price?
To be honest, I think the market, has been very strong in 2025. It started off a little bit slow. We had a bit of a dip, but I think comparatively to the last couple of years, I think it's actually been a very good market. I think the banks have gone over and above in order to assist us with getting bonds and, new offerings that they put out in the market. It's really, that support that's allowed the market to sustain itself. I think, after COVID and all these other things that have been happening and, the wars and, everything around the world, we needed that support. But I think, price bracket wise, we've seen a strong market throughout almost all brackets, to be honest, even up at the top end, your 8 to 10 million. We've had a great year with some of those properties, which, maybe in the last couple of years we haven't. We've seen that strength come back. But I also think the value proposition now, you hear stories of people coming back from Cape Town and places and overseas. Joburg has got a really good value proposition. You can get a big property, a big piece of land, you can be secure, you've got all of these things in place, which, a lot of people are flocking back to. So I really see the market, even in Bryanston comparatively to last year, the bigger plots, the 4,000 squares, the acres, has come back in demand, and you see that the prices are increasing there as well. So we've had a good year. I think comparatively to the last, it's been very strong, but I think it underlines that from a lot of support from other industry players.
Your advice to sellers out there, it's, as you said, it's been a difficult market the last couple of years now. People have sold, come back. Advice to sellers at the moment?
I think with sellers, it's just picking the right person that fits in order to sell your property. Because, we've gone through a period of a lot of sellers thinking that they can do for sale by owners and, why do they need agents and all of that, which, an amazing market, you might get lucky and you might get right. But I think in this sort of market, it's really important that you find an agent that you're comfortable with, somebody that knows the area and is knowledgeable and is also willing to be a bit flexible. We're finding a lot of guys, that may have bought a year or two before, they need to sell now and it's not quite at the level that their bond is. You need people with experience that are going to help them out in those situations. And, you've got to have the right contact base, which I think Willco does. We've dealt with a lot of those sort of sales where they're not, I wouldn't say that they're, they're not going to be auctioned off tomorrow, but it's a semi-distressed sale where, maybe the price that the market's willing to give is not quite the same as what's outstanding on the bond. So, if you've got the correct contacts, you can make that as hassle-free and as stress-free as it needs to be.
Getting to my next question, then, why sign a sole and exclusive mandate with Willco, or why sign a mandate with Willco and another agency?
So look, I think Willco, from our perspective, is it's been built. The last 2 years it was just me in a room, and now we sort of 40 odd agents between rentals and sales, and it's all based around service. We can't please everybody. We do get things wrong from time to time, but if you look at our reviews, the guys really embody what it is to work for Willco Properties, and that's giving good service. At the end of the day, without the agents that work for me and the team behind me, Willco Properties actually isn't. It's just a name. It's just me in a room again. So, I'm very lucky that we've put a lot of emphasis into customer service and making sure that the guys are looked after.
And seeing the deal through from start to
correct,
finish.
100%. And with our sole mandate, we don't lock people in. If you unhappy, you give 7 days notice and you walk away. There's no costs. There's no funny little clauses.
So none of this 90 days notice.
No, it's
20 days
it's
notice.
absolutely transparent. And actually, a lot of the guys that have worked with me, the likes of Gary Vipond and Joshua Rissick, Dan Curtis, a lot of their sales and mandates are all verbal, based on sort of understanding between the seller and the agent that they trust each other. So from our side, the offering is transparency. At the end of the day, we don't sugarcoat things, which may be to our detriment sometimes when sellers think that potentially their property is worth a bit more. But from our side, we don't want to sugarcoat things and let you down, and we list at that price, and then 6 months down the line you haven't sold and you're wondering, well, what are we actually doing? So we try to be as transparent as possible, and if you're unhappy with our service, I'm reachable the whole time. The guys can reach out to me, or they can give notice and say, look, we're moving on.
On that, we spoke about the market earlier on. What are you finding the difference between the listing price on the one side and what the property is actually selling for? Is there a big difference, or are we getting closer than what we were between listing or asking price and selling price?
So I think it's I've got a controversial view on that, to be honest. I think, a lot of agents can go around and say, well, in a bad market it's 10, 15, 20% lower. But I think you really got to have an agent who understands the current demand and market. And we all get it wrong from time to time. It's not an exact science. A lot of people want to know, what is my property worth? Give me an exact answer. At the end of the day, it comes down to what the buyers are willing to pay. And the agents are there to actually negotiate the best possible price. But it is difficult to pinpoint the exact price. But what I'm trying to get at here is that, if the agent's trying to get your mandate and sugarcoating the price for you, then obviously your percentage is a lot bigger. You might find, well, I think it's worth 6 million and actually it's not, and it ends up selling a lot lower and you've lost 20%. It's variable depending on how knowledgeable the agent is.
Upping the price to get the mandate.
Well, that's exactly it. From my point of view, is if if you've got a good agent, they're going to be honest with you. And from our perspective, let's market aggressively, be a bit more flexible on our commission to get a deal over the line than, we all sit there for 6 months and taking thousands of buyers through, and you don't get a pen to paper. Pen to paper in this market is the most important thing.
That was my next thing, pen to paper. As a purchaser, it's stressful.
Of course, yeah.
To put pen to paper.
Yes.
The biggest stumbling blocks, you would say, for a purchaser at this stage, or what purchasers should look out for when they come to Willco and they're looking at properties that they see online?
I think the biggest thing is just, if you've got any queries, speak up first. I think before, understanding that the OTP is a legally binding document. It's not, well, maybe I want to buy. Just understanding that perspective. And if you're uneasy about anything, any facet or, anything to do with the property at this stage, this is the time to bring it up. So your likes of making sure you've got the property declaration form, understanding what's been declared. You also have the ability as a buyer to do a home inspection, also getting a home inspecting company that's not just going to tear the place apart, because a lot of the homes are second hand. It's not, they might be 30 years old.
Yeah.
There will be some cosmetic things. Just understanding those type of things, and understanding, the onus is also on them as the buyer to say, hey, listen, I want this, that, and the other. included in the OTP, and making sure you've got the answers before you're comfortable. And I think that's really important. Estate financials. There's a lot of sectional titles. I know it's big in the news at the moment. A lot of sectional title complexes that are mismanaged, and people buy in there without knowing, and then they end up with massive levies.
Also, I think, and let's discuss that quickly. I want to get into costs for the purchase, because I think understanding, when I say it again, stumbling blocks for purchases, we can play with that one, but also just make sure that you understand what you're in for. I'll get to, but let's say get yourself pre-approved first, and then make sure you understand what transfer duty, okay, so we get to that. So with purchases, Will, what would you say they should be looking out for, and also to make it easier for them to put pen to paper, as we discussed earlier?
I think just knowing where you stand in a financial position, make sure that you've gone through a pre-approval process with a bond originator. The banks are a bit iffy. Some banks do it, like the likes of Investec will give you a pre-approval, but making sure you go through a bond originator, knowing that you're walking into a situation where, all your cards are on the table, you understand where you are financially, because I think people don't understand that what the banks look at, what's the criteria. The banker might say that they can qualify for the loan, but they haven't done a credit check, and that telecom account you forgot from 6 months ago is now rearing its ugly head, those type of things. So, from a purchaser's perspective, before going into an OTP, make sure that you're not going to get disappointed at the end of the day. Make sure that you've asked the right questions, plans, levies, all those sort of things. You understand what you're buying into, if you're buying into a complex or an estate. Understanding those things is really, really important, because you don't want to buy into a complex and you've got 3 dogs and they only allow 2, and you haven't checked, or whatever it may be. Make sure that you've got a list of questions ready for the agents. And I mean, we deal with it all the time, and often from listing we'll get the seller to provide all of that ready available, so that we can just send it to the purchaser to make an informed decision.
And I think if you pre-approved and you understand what you can buy, it makes it easier to go look at the property, and also gives the seller confidence that Corey is coming through the property, but he can actually afford it, and he's not just coming there to look around.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think from agents' perspective, being selfish, time is money at the end of the day. So you might spend a couple of weeks helping a purchaser, and then they don't qualify for the bond because they haven't done the correct steps. So it really does weigh, especially for my guys, if there's a pre-approval in place, you can, almost put your neck on the line to the seller to say, this is a very genuine buyer. He's gone through this process. It's looking very positive. And also, feeling assured, as I said, the support from the banks has been great. The interest rates that we've been seeing being granted I have never seen in my 10-year career, prime -2s, 1.8s, and that's a credit to the bond origination company that we use.
So the banks must be seeing something in the market.
Well, that's correct. I think they're just wanting to support. I mean, it's obviously, they want the guys to be there. They want them to upgrade and buy and go through those motions. And they've been very good with making sure that the property market continues.
One thing about Will Stevens, that the viewers might know, might not know.
In terms of, we're Willco Properties, the dragon, our logo's part of my heritage. So my family's Welsh. Everybody was born in Wales, actually apart from me, but our heritage is Welsh, and that's where the dragon comes from. That's where the logo comes from. And I've been here nearly 11 years now in South Africa. So a lot of people might or might not know that. I'm sure that the clients who have met me and have dealt with me would know that, but maybe the guys who've dealt with my agents, maybe they wouldn't. But that's the heritage of the logo and the background.
And settled in Bryanston, as you said.
Yeah, I'm settled in Bryanston now. Yeah, absolutely. My son goes to the school there. Really loving the area. It's fantastic. Obviously, I spent a lot of time in Kailami Estates. It was a different move, a different area, but we're loving it. Absolutely loving it. Yeah.
And where can we contact you, Will?
So we're everywhere. We were known for our bin advertisement, but you can find us P24, our website, and my mobile number's everywhere.
What is your mobile number?
It's 079 773 0751. I'm available most hours, to be honest. It's my wife's not too happy, but anytime you want to give me a call, I'm always available. So
Will Stevens, Willco.
Perfect.
Good chatting to you.
Thanks very much.
Nice working with you.
And thanks for having us. Nice to be back, and always a pleasure.